Hello, Divorce and Beyond family. I've got some exciting news because we have teamed up with Headspace to guide you toward better mental health. With Headspace's meditation, mindfulness tools, and mental health support, you're set for a journey to a happier, healthier you. And there's more because if you sign up through our exclusive link, you'll enjoy 2 weeks of Headspace membership for free. So don't miss out on this opportunity to embrace your well-being. You can check out the show notes for the link or just go to divorcebeyond.com/headspace-Susan. And you'll be able to start your path to peace and joy today. This is just one more way that we can support you on your journey to a better beyond.
Coming up on today's episode of the Divorce and Beyond podcast.
Don't take this like this is an easy way out. This is an easy approach. It is not easy, but what you will see at the end of it is amazing. You will thrive, your children will thrive, and you are just going to feel so much better. And isn't that the whole purpose of getting a divorce? Is you realized how tough things were in the marriage and you wanted to see something better. Well, get to better.
Hello, and welcome to the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host. As a top divorce attorney and family law mediator for 30 years, I know what you need to know to get through your divorce, and most importantly, how to move beyond it to thrive and transition to your new future. My experts and I are here to give you the insider view into the process, so listen in for the wisdom and expert information you need on your journey through divorce and beyond. Hello, and welcome to today's podcast. I'm Susan Guthrie, your host, and today we're going to be diving into a topic that is absolutely crucial for anyone who is navigating a challenging post-divorce journey. We're going to talk about parallel parenting. So whether you are dealing with a high conflict ex or just struggling to find a peaceful way to co-parent, this episode is for you. Joining me today is a very special guest, Dr. Courtney Evans, who is a dedicated divorce and recovery coach with a wealth of experience, more than I think she would want, in managing high conflict divorce situations. Dr. Courtney began her journey in alternative dispute resolution after she experienced her own difficult divorce, which led her to becoming a certified divorce coach, a recovery coach, and a conflict resolution specialist. She's the founder of divorceco.org, where she offers personalized coaching and support for those going through similar experiences. She's also a lifelong learner. I think it's important that you know that she also is working on her MBA right now. She's writing her first book, which is called, and this will resonate with many of you who are listening, From Hell to Healing, a guide to surviving a high conflict divorce. We'll have to have you come back on, Dr. Courtney, when you are done with the book so that we can talk about that. And that will be available soon. But her mission is to help others transform their pain into purpose and find a path to healing beyond the conflict. In this episode, Dr. Courtney is going to share with us her invaluable insights on when and how to implement parallel parenting, why it might be the best solution for high conflict situations, and some really practical steps to make the transition smoother for both you and your children. So this is an episode, guys, filled with practical advice, personal experiences, and lots of hope. So thank you so much, Dr. Courtney, for joining us, and let's dive in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. And yes, I'm a lifelong learner. I will be in school forever and ever. Amen. I think if we stop that process, it's just, what do you do then if you're not learning anymore? So I'm excited to share all that I know, all of the things with the listeners today. So
this is a wonderful conversation, and I'm delighted to be having it with you because, as you just said, we're lifelong learners. You learned and have, taken a number of trainings and certifications in this niche area, I would call it, of difficult divorce, difficult some people call it the high conflict divorce, whatever we want to call this, but the more conflictual end of this process and beyond the divorce or separation into the co-parenting relationship. And you've learned through your own journey. I know for myself, right? I was a divorce attorney who then got divorced and learned something. But then I met my current husband, who was also going through a perhaps higher conflict divorce, had children, and that experience changed who I was as a practitioner. So I was thinking maybe let's start there to, if you don't mind sharing a little bit about your personal journey, because I think it's going to resonate with a lot of my listeners.
I personally believe that our experience, our journey, is what really educates us the most. You can read all the books, take all the courses, but if you haven't been down in the trenches with your own boots, walking it, making missteps, making mistakes, tripping and falling flat on your face, what are you really learning? So my experience, I went through my own divorce 9 years ago. And it was as amicable as you can be in a divorce. We shared the same attorney. We've had 50-50 custody. We didn't end up in family court. And, maybe some would call me naive. I thought that was just the way all divorces were. Family court, it's the best interest of the kids. And you do what you have to because you're both a parent. And I really thought that was the way it was. And so then fast forward a little bit, I met my now husband, who was going through his own custody battle, very drawn out divorce and custody battle. And I realized what high conflict was. I realized how broken the family court systems are. They are not, in fact, there for the best interest of the kids. And I really saw what that 7-year battle did to the kids, to my husband, to me, to our family, to other families. So my journey connected me with other people, social media, in the courtroom meeting people, things like that, where I really saw that there was such a huge need for change when it comes to divorces, co-parenting, family court, what you do beyond the divorce. I really saw that firsthand and said, you know what? There needs to be a change. The path that we took was traumatic. It was more traumatic than I can discuss in a short podcast. What it led me to was the pain we went through needed to be turned into a purpose. At the end of our journey, and I say I'm using air quotes over here, end of our journey, I decided that I needed to put my focus into something bigger. So that's when I started the certifications and coursework to become a divorce coach, divorce recovery, and then a conflict resolution specialist.
Right. And now, in fact, you have sort of an overarching umbrella. Your company is the Divorce Co, divorceco.org. And under that, you do all those different types of coaching and supporting for parents to help them through that journey. I think it's really important that people note a couple of things that you said, and that is that even as professionals, we can make mistakes as we journey along through this path, right? We are learning always as we go through these things. But that journey that you go through, whether it's your personal divorce or really just like my situation, right? Getting involved as a second spouse to someone who's in a conflictual co-parenting relationship, there is nothing that replaces that boots on the ground, as you called it, type of understanding. But it's very different to be stepping into these two different, right? You had the experience of the non-conflictual, isn't this great? Sunshine and roses, I'm sure it wasn't, but you know what I mean, right? Like the one that we wish every divorce could be. I mean, they're never perfect, but you didn't have any of that all the way to the other end of the spectrum. But now what you do in your coaching, in your conflict resolution work, in your co-parenting or parenting coaching, you really work with people at that other end of the spectrum. And I can tell you, for my listeners who are out there right now, that's where people are desperate for help. And I know you were probably there yourselves when you were going through the journey.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. We fell on our faces so many times. I mean, just the other day, I posted a post on Instagram. I cussed out my co-parent. we're 9 years divorced and we had an argument. Like it still to this day can be contentious at times. I mean, you got a divorce for a reason, and now you're trying to co-parent tiny humans with this person, and it can be really difficult. So the falling on your face really taught me how to help clients not fall on theirs. It's super easy to sit there as someone who's never gone through a divorce and say, oh, well, just do it this way. Oh, well, that's still their parent. Oh, well, it's in the best interest, and make all these judgment calls. But unless you've actually been there and done it and seen it and fallen on your face while doing it,
Yes.
you don't truly know what kind of advice to give. And no divorce is a cookie cutter. There's no cookie cutter responses to how to go through the divorce process, how to co-parent, how to parallel parent, how to recover after. Every situation is unique.
One of the things I've told clients for years, and it's because I learned this, is you have to have grace for your co-parent, because they are going to make mistakes in this journey for sure. And guess what? So are you. And so you have to have grace for them because you want them to have it for you, and you have to have it for yourself, right?
Yes.
Because we do tend to beat ourselves up, but you are going to say things you should not have said. You are going to do things that you should not do in your co-parenting relationship. You're going to cuss out your co-parent along the way at some point, even if it's 9 years later. Trust us, folks. It's never a perfect journey, but it's one that we can be constantly improving and working on, and sort of steering the ship back to the middle, right? Isn't that sort of, as we veer off course, knowing and being aware that that's what we've done, and sort of having that ability to, get us back on track, whatever that looks like.
Absolutely. And that's the biggest thing, is giving yourself grace. I love that you said that. Yes, you need to provide some to your counter or co or parallel parent, but you also need to provide it to yourself, because at the end of the day, you are going to make mistakes. And it was so funny to me because I have a nursing background, and it's so funny to me that it didn't dawn on me until multiple years into this journey that what we're doing when we respond that way is actually our fight or flight response. It's an activation of our fight or flight response. And we're sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, like we're triggered, our heart rate is up, our body's just trying to protect itself. So we react rather than respond. And with that reaction, sometimes we cuss out our co-parent, or we say something we shouldn't say, or we don't give ourselves enough grace. And really, it just comes down to trying to figure out how to deactivate that nervous system, deactivate that fight or flight response, and find a way to find grace for yourself, find a way to respond in a timely manner, obviously, but not immediately, because if you're responding immediately, it's reactionary. And just giving yourself the opportunity to feel what you're going to feel, but not get so activated that you're responding with this, 5-paragraph with citation email that you think is going to change your counterparent. Just taking that time to kind of step back and own your own along with your grace.
Right. That's so good. Right. Own your own with the grace. And that is one of the keys, I would say. So a takeaway for listeners is that ability to understand that, our role in this is never going to be perfect either. You're always going to be feeling your way. And, I want to ask about something, because you used, as you were just talking, you said your counter parent, your co-parent, or your parallel parent. Right. And so for some of my listeners, some of those may be new terms, right? So we have counter parent. Co-parent, I think, is probably pretty familiar to anyone in the divorce or separation world, but parallel parent, counter parent. Can you explain those terms? Just let's start there.
They were newer words to me towards the end of our journey as well. All of the court officials, the guardian ad litems, whatever they're called in your state, they really push co-parenting. And everything you see online with the cute little co-parenting pictures of everybody in matching jerseys and things like that, you hear that a lot, and it's kind of shoved down your throat. Well, along our journey, we realized that co-parenting just was not going to work, because when you co-parent with someone, you're making co-decisions. in each household. You're working together. It's lots of frequent communication. Well, when you have a counter parent, which means they are counteracting everything you want to do, and that can be for multiple different reasons. It can be, most of the time, it's for some sense of control, but it's usually an underlying, and we all like to label people as narcissistic and bipolar and borderline personality. I think some of those labels are a little overused, but it doesn't mean that the person's not disordered. Some people can just be jerks. That's just that simple. But so it can be control, a disorder, or a jerk, that they're kind of counteracting everything that you are trying to accomplish with your shared children. So when you have someone who's a counter parent and co-parenting isn't working, you can kind of pivot over to a parallel parenting process. I didn't coin the phrase. You guys can get the book on Amazon. It's Carl Knickerbocker. It's the Parallel Parenting Solution. I think it's like $12. I have it. It's got notes in it, dog ears, sticky notes all throughout it. I love it. It's a really great concept. But I like to call it peaceful parenting. So, because a lot of people say, well, I could never parallel parent. So let me back up a little bit. The idea of parallel parenting is exactly as it sounds. You run parallel to each other. You don't crisscross. So you mind your own house and they mind their own house. And decisions that are made, you have to kind of learn to live with them. It decreases the communication. So whenever I have someone who's either in my comment section or even a client who says, oh my goodness, I could never, then you're not in a true high conflict situation. And I think that Tracy Callahan from DCA says it best, that not all divorces are high conflict, even though we like to say they are.
Yes.
All divorces have some level of contention, but they don't have to be high conflict. And if you can't imagine parallel parenting, then you're not in a true high conflict situation, because parallel parenting is designed for people who literally cannot co-parent. They are met with resistance at every single turn, control at every single turn. They're losing their sanity. It's affecting their mental health. It's affecting the way that they parent in their own home. So it's really that disengaging, because so often we talk about gray rock. And unfortunately, you can't gray rock effectively when you have children. You can't go no contact with your ex if you have children. So you have to find somewhere on the spectrum in between co-parenting and gray rocking. And that's where I think that parallel parenting with a peaceful parenting approach comes into play.
Yeah, the peace isn't so much that you create a peaceful co-parenting situation. It's that you bring some peace into your own life by parallel parenting, right? I think that's important. Yes. And for my listeners who don't know the term or aren't familiar with gray rocking, could you describe that?
It's where any response you give is boring and flat like a gray rock. It's almost to the level of no contact. Like you're just yes, no, sure, okay, thumbs up, like that's it. Because the more bland and gray and plain you are, the less fuel you're feeding the fire to that counter parent that's going to argue with everything that you say.
Right. It's like a step beyond Biff, right?
Yes.
With Bill Eddy's brief, informative, friendly, but firm. Brief is there. There's not a lot of information. There's certainly not a lot of friendly. And no, I would call that firm, but right. So it's like this step beyond. It's minimal communication only as absolutely necessary.
And that can be really difficult when you have smaller children, because they really do require, a lot of back and forth between things that happen. So another thing that I get some clients or comment section where people will say, well, I can't parallel parent because I need to know what's going on with my kiddo at all times. Yes, you do. But when it's affecting your sanity, when it's affecting your ability to show up as a healthy, happy parent, you kind of have to look at it risk versus benefit there. If something happens to your child, you will be notified. There will be someone, an in-law, the ex, an emergency room, God forbid, but someone will get in touch with you. You have to start. So parallel parenting, I like to say, is more about yourself, finding a way to move forward with peace yourself. It doesn't have to involve the other person. So everybody's like, well, the other person's not going to jump on board with that. There's no way that they're going to parallel parent with me. They don't have to. They can send a 5-paragraph email. They can send an email with all the cuss words and colorful yelling and all this other stuff. And you respond only if there's a need. If there's a question that has to have a response, if it's going to negatively impact your child, that's the only time you respond. And then I always inevitably have people say, well, they're never going to give up. Yeah, well, they might not. They might blow up your email. They might send you 10 or 15 emails, and that's okay. I instruct clients all the time to set up a day of the week or an hour of the day, whatever fits your situation the best, that you go in and you look at a specific email, a specific phone number, an app, especially if you're court ordered to use it. And that's the only time you look at it. And so then you look at all 10 emails and you're like, okay, and you filter through it and decide what needs answering and what doesn't. And then you only respond to what is necessary, because then you're taking the fuel out of that fire, and a fire cannot rage without fuel. So you have to be the one to make that choice to make it stop.
Yeah, I think I love that you said that, because I have heard this from clients through the years. This is a very consistent response when parallel parenting is introduced into my conversation with them. With my client, because it's becoming clear that the co-parenting, the dysfunction in the co-parenting relationship is truly causing, this is one of the things I think is key for people to note. When the dysfunction in your co-parenting relationship is causing you to have mental health issues, to have disrupting your day and your life to an extent that is impairing your ability to function in all ways, but certainly as a good parent yourself, that is when it is time to consider this option. And so I want to make that
Absolutely
known to people. It's not like he pisses me off or she's a pain in my butt or this. It's like, this is when really, truly, your mental health is being challenged by this situation.
Yes.
And if that sounds like impossible to you out there, I think it goes back to what you said earlier, Dr. Courtney, right? Then you're not in a truly high conflict situation. You're in a situation that has some conflict, and they are very different.
If you are in a truly high conflict situation, but you still can't find a way to do that, and this is going to make some people little bristly, you might be the source of the conflict.
Yeah.
Just that simple, because this is an approach that you take when you have no other options.
Hey, listeners, are you navigating the tough waters of divorce and feeling overwhelmed by the process? Let me introduce you to Hello Divorce, your ultimate ally in making this journey smoother and less stressful. Hello Divorce offers a modern, affordable approach to divorce, combining expert legal advice with easy-to-use online tools. So whether you need help with paperwork, mediation, or simply some guidance, Hello Divorce has you covered. Plus, their flat fee services mean no hidden costs, just clear, upfront pricing. Visit hellodivorce.com today to learn more and take the first step toward your fresh start. Remember, you don't have to do this alone. Hello Divorce is here to help. Stay tuned for more from Dr. Courtney Evans as she continues to share her powerful strategies for reducing conflict and finding peace in high conflict parenting situations. She's going to be telling us how to set healthy boundaries and protect your mental health, even when the co-parenting relationship feels impossible. You won't want to miss her tips on transforming your approach and reclaiming your peace. So we'll be right back after this short break.
We all know we get that notification from the ex and our heart rate goes up. We get nauseated, dizzy, mad, sweaty, hot, whatever comes up for you. That's your fight or flight. You're angry, you're activated. Find a way to deactivate yourself, because that's going to be step one in responding rather than reacting to this person.
If you're struggling with a high conflict situation or looking for support in your co-parenting relationship, check out the divorce topics section on the website. To make it easy for you to find just the right information, we have taken some of the most popular episodes and broken them down by subject matter. So just go to divorceandbeyondpod.com and you'll find the help that you need all in one place.
And now we return to today's show.
So I know I get people all the time that say, well, the courts say we have to co-parent. And yes, they do, because 7 times out of 10, you will get an attorney or a judge who, the more conflict, the more billable hours they can get. So if they're pushing co-parenting on people who can't co-parent, you're going to be going back to court every single time you turn around because you have a counter parent. So do you really want to continue to go to court? Do you really want to continue to pay the filing fees, pay your court fees, pay your attorney, have to take time off work, do all of these things, or do you want to choose your peace? And that's really that hard, like you have to take a hard left or a hard right and make a choice for yourself. And if you are incapable of making that decision, then that's the one of two scenarios. You're either not in enough of a high conflict situation, or you're the cause of the conflict. And you need to take a step back and realize, why do you want to stay spun up in this? And something that may resonate with some of the listeners, a vulnerable moment for me, about 3/4 of the way through our custody journey, I was having to respond to the other co-parent. The attorneys suggested that I do that because there was too much contention between the two parties. I was not comfortable with that. I did not enjoy that. It was absolutely awful. It was probably the worst advice we ever got, but I did it because in the middle of it, the attorney told me to, so I did what the attorney told me to do because we're paying the attorney. You guys have all been there. And in the process of doing that, the stress levels for me had gotten so high between my own co-parenting journey, having to respond in this high conflict situation, having to be put in this situation, having to deal with some of the legal issues we were dealing with. You can read all about it in the book that's coming. But I was diagnosed with an autoimmune disorder because of all of the stress.
Sure.
I recognized that if I stayed in that constant fight or flight, my body was going to give out on me. And even now, a couple of years after that diagnosis, I'm still struggling with it. So, you have to stop and think about, at this point, I have a child to raise. Am I going to be able to raise him effectively if I am ill and not a healthy parent? What example am I setting for him? Is it more important for me to respond to this person and make them change and make them see? Or is it more important for me to choose my household, my peace, and what we do when they're here being my business? Or is it more important to show up to the fight?
Yeah.
And only you can decide that.
Only you can. All I can tell you from personal experience myself, I suspect you would say the same, is the instant relief that happens when you transition into the parallel parenting situation is remarkable, and will tell you that you know how you don't know you're in a stressful situation or just how bad something is until you get out from under it. Often
absolutely.
People say that about their marriages, right? And then they get divorced and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe how bad the relationship was. It had gotten bad over a period of time. It's the same thing with this. And I think, that people, if they are feeling that their co-parenting relationship is truly disordered, to start trying parallel parenting and seeing, like, organically the relief they might feel, the betterment it brings to their household, because that's where you're going to see it, right? So let's talk about, for those people who are out there listening, how do you even get started, right? You're here, you are, you've got a court-ordered parenting plan that says you will co-parent. Here's when each of you has your child. What is this parallel parenting thing, Dr. Courtney? How do you magically wave your wand and do this?
Well, I wish there was a magical wand that would make my life and so many others so much easier. Ideally, it is great if you start out of the gate with your divorce with more of a parallel parenting approach, if you can, especially if you know that it's going to be a contentious and potentially turn into a high conflict situation. But a lot of people, they think divorce, they think attorney, they get wrapped up in family court. And then by the time they come to a coach, whether it's me or someone else, there's already a parenting plan in place. So it's not simple to transition to parallel parenting, because I know you guys have all seen the memes out there that when you set a boundary, the person who squawks the most is the one who needs the boundary.
Yeah. They start pushing at it.
Absolutely. And that's the one the boundary is designed for. So you're going to get a lot of pushback when you transition to the parallel parenting mindset. But what I first start with clients, and my big motto here is healing needs to start on day one. A lot of people think, well, I can't heal. I can't focus on healing. I can't focus on forgiveness until this divorce is final. It needs to start on day one. Because if you are emotionally charged the entire divorce process, you're going to make decisions from an emotional place. You're not going to make it from a healed or healing place. So I really say on day one, you've really got to set yourself up for that. So start putting some self-care in there. That's the first thing. I don't journal if you want to meditate. I can't meditate. I have ADHD and sitting still is just not for me. But if it's for you, have at it. Cold plunges, going for walks, whatever works for you to deactivate your nervous system. So we all know we get that notification from the ex and our heart rate goes up. We get nauseated, dizzy, mad, sweaty, hot, whatever comes up for you. That's your fight or flight. You're angry, you're activated. Find a way to deactivate yourself because that's going to be step one in responding rather than reacting to this person. Taking a pause is the next thing. So a lot of times I get clients who will send me an email. They'll forward me the email that the ex sent them and they're like, what do I say? And then I get a flood of emails. What am I going to say? I should answer. I need to answer right now. No, you don't. Unless there's a medical emergency with your child, you do not have to answer right now. You can take 24 to 48 hours to answer. No court's going to say that you were withholding information in that time frame. Just take a pause. Make it so that either you're using a specific email address, a specific phone number, or an app. Especially if you're court ordered, you have to use your app.
Yeah.
But only set up to check it, cut the notifications off, and only set yourself up to check it when you've had a minute to practice that self-care. Journal for a minute, go for a run, do a cold plunge, sit down with your ice cream, your wine, whatever you enjoy, open it, read it, let yourself feel what you're going to feel, acknowledge it, close it, and answer in a few hours or a day or two. Let it resonate with you for a little bit. And it's 9 times out of 10, when you come back and look at it, it didn't even require a response. If it doesn't have a question mark in there, you don't have to respond to it. They're updating you. You don't have to say anything. At most, just to be amicable, if you're trying that route, is to say thank you. That's it. It doesn't require multiple sentences. That 5 paragraph with citations doesn't require that. And really, the more that you stop showing up to the battle, that person it's a form of gray rock. It's just not quite as, aggressive as gray rock. But you stop showing up to the battle, they're going to get bored because you're not giving them any ammunition anymore. Those 5 paragraphs that you give them, that is 5 paragraphs worth of ammunition. You just gave them either in court or to respond to you or to put you on blast on social media. That's what you're doing.
Or so all of the
those
above.
Are some, your high conflict, it's all of the above, but that's a good way to get started. And then the second half of that is really going to be on you, where you have to, now this is not applicable for cases of actual abuse. Let me put that disclaimer out there. If your other parent has custody of the kids and they're not in a unsafe situation, you have to let some of the control go. Own your own home, mind your own business, and let them do what they're going to do over there. If they go to bed at 8:30 over there, but they go to bed at 8 at your house, that 30 minutes is okay. And a lot of people come back and say, well, kids need structure. Absolutely, they need structure. But they also need to understand a little bit of flexibility. Because if you show them that life is all about just a cookie cutter, no, it's not. There's lots of choices in life. There can be lots of flexibility in life. There can be choices in life. So let them start to grow and understand that, you know what, I can go to bed at 8:30 at dad's and at 8 at mom's. That's okay. So you have to kind of take back some of your own peace by relinquishing a little bit of control.
That's so, I know there are people out there right now who are just like quivering in their boots over that one because it's easy to say, it's very hard to do, right? But
yes,
everything that you've pointed out, and I think this is really the key here, is everything that you're talking about is what you actually have control over. Because as much as we would like to think that if we write a 5 paragraph email explaining to our co-parent, our counterparent, or our parallel parent why they're doing something wrong. And if they would just do it this way, this is why it would be better and or in the best interests of our child. And think that's going to get through, or that that's mystical thinking, I call it. I tell my clients, right?
Yes.
You think you're magically going to change your ex or your co-parent by telling them what they're doing wrong. Gee, people handle that really well. And then suggesting and or even better, telling them what they should do to do it better. And frankly, you're honestly just going to go the wrong way with that. You're going to go further into your conflict. And what do we know about children and how they do post divorce? We know that kids whose parents have high levels of conflict have the worst outcomes. And so,
yes, 100%.
What do you tell clients? I've always told them, say that that's like a mantra for you. If I escalate this conflict or perpetuate this conflict, that is the worst thing for my child. So I'm going to let this go.
Absolutely. And I will circle back around a little bit with, yes, I know that there are listeners out there that must be easy for you to say, look at you up on that pedestal. Please do not mistake this as me saying this is easy. Again, I just cussed out my co-parent not that long ago. It's not easy. This was not an easy journey for me. I failed a lot of times. I am a control freak, type A, OCD, all the things. Relinquishing any level of control over our child to my co-parent it's painful some days. Even now, even all these years later, he's older now, it's still painful. But at the end of the day, I remind myself and I remind my clients, if the child is safe and happy, that's what matters. So I have to remind myself, and like I said, this is not applicable to actual abuse scenarios. Mine is not that way. So I know when my child is with the other parent, they're fine. They're happy, they're safe, they're thriving. That's what matters. So you have to remind yourself, and everybody's seen it all over the internet everywhere. Love your child more than you hate your ex. I didn't coin it, but I wish I did. I wish I could put it on a t-shirt, a banner, a bumper sticker. That's what you need to remind yourself. And if you think you can change that person, why are you guys still not married? That's the question I ask every client. So you think that you can change them. You think if you draft this email and say it just the right way, and don't get me wrong, I have sat in front of a computer. I have a doctorate degree. I wrote a dissertation. I have sat in front of the computer longer drafting an email to my ex-spouse than I did on that paper, thinking if I just find the right code, I can unlock this door. No, you can't, because if you could, you'd still be married to that person. Stop trying to change them and change you.
I love that phrase as well. I remember I had never heard it and a client said it to me. I have to love my kids more than I hate my ex. And I was like, I didn't realize it was out there in the world. This is probably 30 years ago, but I remember thinking that is such a brilliant way to look at it. And I just want to point out as well, you have to love yourself more than you hate your ex as well, because this is to a large degree, we're talking, everything's about your children. I know that's where parents are coming from, but
yes,
part of this is about you as well. And that conflict between you and your ex is really unhealthy for you. And it's not something that you can actually, since you can't change them, it's not something that you're actually ever going to make better by going down that road. The only way you're going to be able to heal yourself and get some space for yourself so that you can be the best parent you can be in your home is to, I think of parallel parenting is kind of like there's a wall there and you're both like, as you start to veer toward each other, bang, you hit that wall and sort of bounce back out into your lane, or a guardrail a bit. And yes, there's still that a small amount of communication that needs to go on. But to the extent that you can limit it, everyone's life gets better.
And I use the example of bowling with the bumpers, so you don't go in the gutter.
Yeah.
Because if you are arguing with them, yelling with them, cussing with them, you're in the gutter.
Yeah.
And the parallel parenting approach allows you to stay on the lane rather than taking an exit into the gutter, because that doesn't do any good. So yes, our children are at the center of everything that we do. Absolutely. But what you have to think about is, how are you showing up for your kid? It's not about how your ex is showing up for your kid. That's theirs to carry. How are you doing it? And when you said it a few minutes ago, as you were explaining it, and you used the word remarkable, that was the word that was in my head as well. What you will see come to fruition using a peaceful parenting approach, a parallel parenting approach, is remarkable. You will feel so much freer, so much lighter. If you have a new spouse, you'll connect better. If you're in a blended family, it will be better. Things will just be a lot lighter for you. And if you're someone like me who ended up with health issues because of it, you can start to course correct some of those as well. Don't take this like this is an easy way out. This is an easy approach. It is not easy, but what you will see at the end of it is amazing. You will thrive, your children will thrive, and you are just going to feel so much better. And isn't that the whole purpose of getting a divorce? Is you realized how tough things were in the marriage and you wanted to see something better. Well, get to better. Get into better. That's what you need to do.
Get to the better beyond, folks.
Yes.
I love this. It's important for people to understand that it's not easy, and neither one of us is saying that it is. We've both been down this road and this journey. It's probably one of the hardest things that you will do. You will constantly be biting your tongue. You will constantly need to course correct. But at least from my personal experiences, when you are able to get that guardrail up or get those gutter, stay out of the gutter, get the bumpers going, there's just a relief in your life and in everyone else's life that's around you. As you mentioned, your new spouse, your new significant other, any new, children in your life, your child and you, and that's where you get to that better beyond. I wanted to make sure, because I know that you have a wonderful gift for listeners. And so I wanted to make sure that we talk about that, and just to make sure people know how to get in touch with you. And tell us a little bit more about the book so we can sort of be thinking about when you'll be back for the launch.
Yes. So it is From Hell to Healing, a guide to navigating a high conflict divorce. And I'm hoping end of this year, it may be beginning of next, just depending on, logistics. But it is sort of our story. And then it's also mixed in with stories of clients who have willingly shared them with me. Networking I've done on social media, people have shared their stories. Some are anonymous, some are not. But each chapter kind of starts with some stories and then guides you with some steps on how to navigate the high conflict process, from setting boundaries to documentation for family court. So I'm super excited about it. The book is pretty much finished. We just have to go through some of the editing pieces and things like that. And what I can tell you is it has been a labor of love. It's been cathartic and healing for me. And it was, as I started to round the bend to finishing it, I realized I have accomplished my goal of turning pain into purpose. So I'm super excited about it.
It's such a needed resource. This is such a difficult area for people. And the one thing that I know, having been in the divorce world and now having had the podcast for 5 years, it's just, this is the type of information that people are just rabid for, right? They really are desperate for the information on how to navigate this process when they find themselves in that truly high conflict. And I can tell you, I've heard more of the details of Courtney's journey and her family's journey than you all have in this episode. And we'll save that for when the book comes out. But trust me, her life experience is something that we all can learn from. Don't forget the divorceco.org. What are the services that you offer to clients? How do you work with clients?
So each of my packages are specially customized to the client. I found that was a lot easier than putting together, and I feel like this is my catchphrase, a cookie cutter package, because everything is very different. So I have a 9-month, a 6-month, and a 3-month package, and we taper it to whether you need divorce recovery coaching, whether you need co-parenting help, both. If you have a trial coming up and you need to figure out how to prepare, if you have mediation coming and you figure out you need to prepare, things like that. So kind of run the gamut across the spectrum of those different things. And it's usually either a Zoom call or a phone call, whatever people are most comfortable with. And we work through a series of strategies. I start everyone with some strategies on healing, because I just think that you need to heal so you can show up as your best self through this process from day one. That's just as simple as it is.
It's why I'm talking about self-care all of the time. We just don't prioritize it enough. And if there's one time in your life right now where you have to say me, and be an opera singer a little bit, everyone, it's right now. You have your signature program, and I know you're offering listeners a special discount.
Yes. So the signature program is the 9-month package, and I am offering a 10% discount code for the listeners. So if anybody wants to sign up, you can use Peaceful Parenting as the code. When you go to sign up, just email me and send me that. Then I'll know you've listened to the podcast, and you can do your 10% off.
Well, and I highly recommend people reach out. What email should they contact you at?
It's the divorceco@gmail.com.
Perfect. As always, I will have all of Dr. Courtney's information in the show notes. So you guys can just go there or go to the website, divorceandbeyondpod.com, or sign up for the newsletter because we put this stuff every week in the newsletter for you guys. So you can sign up for that on the website as well. And, Dr. Courtney, thank you for coming on and bringing this really important topic to the table and your own personal experience. This is something, as I said, in 5 years, I've not talked about this particular approach to co-parenting, when to implement it, how to start implementing it. And I think importantly, talking about, the having the grace to know that it's not going to be perfect, but it will get better. Mm-hmm. So thank you for sharing with my listeners. And I'm looking forward to your coming back from hell to healing when the book is ready to launch.
I am so excited to come back. This has been amazing. I hope it's been helpful to the listeners. I know how isolating this process can be, whether you're co-parenting, parallel parenting, whatever you're doing, it's isolating. And I just want people to know that I'm out here. There are other coaches out here to help you, to guide you, to show you where we misstepped. You are not alone, and trust the process and trust yourself.
You are not alone. Keywords right there. So thank you again so much. Thank you for joining me today on the Divorce and Beyond podcast. I hope you found some information and inspiration to help you on this journey. Please join me every Monday at 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for a new episode. And if you like the show, please take the time to subscribe and leave me a 5-star review on iTunes. You can also find more information on the website at divorceandbeyondpod.com, where you'll find links to the YouTube channel, transcripts of the episodes, and other bonus content. So I'll see you next week to help you move through your divorce and beyond.